thought, oh my God, I can't believe that I actually have this now in my collection. And then I acquired a few more pieces, very rare toys. And then I acquired a few more pieces, and my collection just like went next level. And I really felt that my collection was just too good for just myself to enjoy. And so I'd been planning on doing a book for like the last 10 years, but I am such a procrastinator that every time I mentioned it, all my friends were saying, yeah, sure, you're gonna do it, Kirk, sure, you're gonna do it. But then
it was just me and Stefan who said that.
Yeah, and some other guy who's in this room now too, that guy with the video camera. Yeah, I mean, once I acquired these items, I just felt, well, now's the time to make a book. I mean, now it's interesting enough for myself to make a book. I'm sure if it's interesting enough for myself, it would be interesting enough for other people who are like-minded individuals.
I think we proved that, right? You guys are interested as well. But was there a certain movie, a certain character, where did the love come from? What birthed this? What happened?
Well, I've been into horror movies ever since I was a wee little lad. I saw my first horror movie when I was 5 years old, Day of the Trippids, and it's just something that just never went away. I mean, I've always had a fascination with this stuff, and even when I went headfirst into music and learning how to play guitar and playing in bands, I always had that fascination bubbling in the back burners of my mind, and I still actively watched horror movies all the time. And once I actually had an opportunity to start collecting stuff again, I just embraced it fully and just have not stopped yet.
So that means Too Much Horror Business, the sequel?
The sequel will be Too Much Horror Business, volume.
Way too much horror business.
Yeah.
Is there any like holy grail in this book that's like your favorite? Like, look on page 64. Is there something in there that's like, I have to like when you first started doing this book, you're like, I have to share this with everybody because it's just too cool for me to keep in? I know all of it is, but is there one particular thing or group of things?
Well, there were two items that actually turned out to be a pretty major catalyst in my decision to make the book. And one of them is this outfit that Boris Karloff wore in that movie, The Black Cat from 1934. I was thumbing through an auction catalog one day, and I actually saw it in the corner of the page, and I was so blown away that piece actually survived 80-odd years or so, and it was up for sale. And so I jumped at the opportunity to get it, and not long after that, I got an outfit that Bela Lugosi wore in that movie White Zombie from 1932, and I thought, wow, I mean, I have both these items, and these are like some serious collectibles, and they augmented my collection so much that I just thought, well, now's the time. And I'm aware of the fact that now collecting comic books, toys, whatnot is very trendy. There's a hipster element to it. But for me, it was never about being hip or being cool. I mean, it was always driven by having a real love and a real passion for this stuff. And it was very important to me when I made this book that came across. I also wanted it to be very personable. I didn't want it to be like some scholarly tome or some reference book, though people will probably use it as a reference, and that's fine. But it really meant a lot to me that part of my personality came through in the book and through this stuff, because this stuff just lives in me 24 hours a day, and so that was really important.
As we're here at Barnes Noble, they have partnership with a place, a thing called Nook, which is,
Right.
there isn't an e-reader for this book.
No.
And that's interesting to me that it's actually not because they didn't want to make one. You don't want it.
No, there will not be any ebook versions of my book, only because I feel that looking through this book is such an experience, and you really need to be able to like look at the images on the page and turn the page, and the way we designed the whole book, we designed it so that it would flow naturally from cover to cover. And, you know, books are great. I mean, and I'm a big book fan. I still buy lots of books. Though I do have Nook, and I buy ebooks too, but, you know. But it was really important for me that the book be a tactile sort of experience that you can feel with the five senses and see with your own eyes rather than viewing it through a screen. And you know, it was also really important for me to be able to look at the book in the format that it's in. I mean, a lot of times when you read ebooks, they're like on a tiny screen like this, depending on what you're reading it on or whatever. But you know, the size of this book, which is like 12 by 10 or whatever it is, really gave the posters and actually all the images a lot of visual breathing space. And I believe that you can't really get that when it's on an ebook. So I mean, it's totally old school. Completely old school.
And you can tell by looking at it, I mean, you and all the great people at Abrams Publishing and everybody, you didn't cut corners. You didn't like make a little pamphlet or a little like, here's a part of it, I'm going to put out parts 2 and 3 later. You gave all you had.
Yeah.
You gave it all.
I put my heart and soul into this. I mean, I thought that I could knock it out in like 3 or 4 months, and I was wrong. It actually took me 3 years.
He thinks that about everything, just so we're clear. I just want to let you know that.
I put as much effort into as much time as I would, you know, like a Metallica album or something, and I poured over every single letter, every layout, every image, just everything to make sure that it was the best that it could possibly be. And you know, I'm really satisfied with the way it came out. And you know, I should be satisfied because I worked on it like literally every single day of those last 6 months. And I have to say, I made my deadline with 12 hours to spare.
Steph, is that true? I just need to get it back up on it. Is that true?
Well, he'll say it was the deadline
a year ago.
The deadline a year ago. It's actually the third deadline because it took so long. There was the first deadline, I didn't make that one. Then there was the second deadline, and of course I did not make that one. And so then there's the third deadline, and I had to make that one, and I made it with 12 hours to spare. That was a great 12 hours.
We're going to get to all of you. I want to try to involve some of you in this. I want to make sure we get to where you're here for a signing. I want to make sure we get to signing all of your books. We don't want to leave any of you obviously without it. So I want to do a little bit of a Phil Donahue and take some questions from people out here. Ooh, I'm really impartial to people in Metallica fan club shirts, though. So anybody got a question for Mr. Hammett?
Hey Kirk, how you doing?
All right,
fan for 22 years, brother.
Right on, bro.
I was curious, what drew you to the horror genre as you were a kid?
You know, I just gravitated to it naturally. I mean, you know, I've always had this feeling inside of me. It's like this weird, like, outside feeling. You know, I've always felt like a little bit of an outcast, and you know, watching horror movies and watching the monsters or the villains or the mad doctors, you know, basically the disenfranchised characters in all these movies. Those were the characters I related to. I was never the heroes, or you know, even when I watch something like Star Wars, I relate more to Darth Vader than I do to Luke Skywalker. You know, but it was that feeling of being an outsider in myself that made me relate to the outsider sort of faction that happens in a lot of these movies. And yeah, it's just one of those things. I mean, when I watch monster movies or horror movies or whatever, it's very, very comforting for me. I know it sounds weird, but it just is.
It's hard to say no to a Man in a Misfits shirt, I'll tell you that.
Hey Kirk, how are you?
All right, man.
Out of everything you have in the book, as great as it all is there one thing that still eludes you in your collection?
Yeah, you know, I've been looking for this one movie poster for a while, and it's from a movie called Murders in the Rue Morgue from 1932 that starred Bela Lugosi. And it's a beautiful movie poster. There's only one known to exist. It's down in LA in a collection, and that collection is not going anywhere. So, you know, I've been putting my feelers out there for like the last 10, 12, 15 years to try and find one, and I just can't find it anywhere. So if any one of you guys happen to have one in your back pocket,
I'll search everybody on the way out.
Yeah, let's talk later.
Awesome Metallica fan club shirt right over here.
Hey, Kirk.
Right.
Is there anything that you have in your collection that inspired you to write something for Metallica?
Well, all this stuff is very inspiring to me. I mean, for years and years and years now, I've just sat in my movie poster room and just all I have in my movie poster room are movie posters and like a couch, and a lot of times I'll sit there with a guitar and amp and just riff out and look at this stuff, and this stuff is, like I said, is very comforting to me and very inspiring. I guess you can say it's a muse for me, but I spend a lot of time in there just riffing away and staring at all these beautiful posters, and it puts me in a spot where I can kind of clear my mind. It's crazy.
From the guy here who probably cannot even see you because of this column.
I have a bit of
We have a visual.
Hi. I know obviously you like the classics and like to reminisce over like the originals, but do you try to like keep up with upcoming horror movies?
Oh yeah,
like,
absolutely.
You like
absolutely, yeah.
really like
a few movies that I've seen recently that I really like are Troll Hunter. I don't know if you know that one.
Oh!
Great movie from Sweden or Norway or whatever. Norway, yeah.
Oh, see.
And another movie that came out last year called Insidious, which is fantastic.
That's just terrifying.
Yeah, I mean, when I watched that, I had goosebumps pretty much the whole time. I was on edge. And there's been like a few other really, really great movies that I can't think of right now, but yeah, I mean, there's these days the horror movie genre is strong. And there's a lot of great movies that are coming out. A lot of great products. I love Walking Dead. I think that's great. I love True Blood. I think those are great TV shows. And so yeah, I'm very, very psyched on where the genre is going right now.
It's hard to pass up a fan club shirt.
Yeah.
First, I'd like to say it's an honor. All right.
Likewise.
Is there any particular remake that you think is better than a classic? Such as like The Thing or anything from that nature.
I tend not to judge remakes by their originals or vice versa. I mean, a lot of times when I see a remake, I try to separate it from the original, because I mean they're just both different visions, and a lot of times back then, I mean, The Thing is a good example. Back then in 1952 or whatever, the movie technology was not as developed, so they had to rely on things like creating atmosphere and creating suspense, and I totally appreciate that. But then when you look at like John Carpenter's thing that came out in the 80s, I love that as well. But I tend to view them as two different movies. I mean, much like the way I tend to view The Shining, the book, as a completely different story than Stanley Kubrick's Shining, and they're two different animals to me.
Got time for just a couple more here, so I want to make sure we get to all your. I want to get him. You're pointing at him, and I want to get over there to you.
Hey, Kurt.
Hey, man.
What's your favorite slasher horror film?
When it comes to slasher films, I'm not too big on them, because graphic violence just for its own sake I think is not as imaginative. I'm sure there are people who disagree with me, but when it comes to that genre, I like the movies that kind of opened up that whole genre, like Halloween, Friday the 13th, like the first 2 or 3, and that's where I tend to go when it comes to slasher films.
Pick another one. You pick somebody. I'll grab him.
How about that guy right there? Yeah.
All right. I'll get Phil Donahue on you right here. You know what I'm saying?
Come on, you're more like Oprah.
I think that was a compliment, actually. Oh, yeah.
Tell us what your book of the month is. Of course.
My question to you is, with your fascination with horror, has it influenced your guitar playing in any type of way? For example, how you see in For the Thing That Should Not Be, how it has like an eerie vibe to it.
Yeah, I mean, like I said earlier, I mean, this stuff is really, really inspiring to me, and like when I need to tap into something like that, I mean, it's very easy for me to tap into that, because I've been immersed in it, and it's a part of my own personal culture. And so, I mean, I have it in me because I've lived it. I've lived with this stuff for so long, and so it's an easy well for me to draw on. Okay,
come on. This guy's been so patient. He's got a DRI hat on.
I see. All right.
Hi, Kirk. How's it going?
All right, man.
One further question. I need to know which movie you like, Nightmare on Elm Street or Friday the 13th. I mean, I collect Friday the 13th. I collect Sideshow exclusive, little figures of Jason Voorhees, but I need to know who you think is better.
I'm a big fan of the first 2 or 3 Nightmare on Elm Street films. I mean, when they came out back in the early 80s, there was really nothing like it, and I thought that it was just an amazing film, an amazing story, and come on, Freddy Krueger. I mean, there's not been a character like Freddy Krueger to ever come out before him, and I think he was just a very original concept. I mean, in itself, and the concept behind Nightmare on Elm Street, I think is just super cool. And like I said, like there hasn't really been a movie like Nightmare on Elm Street that's preceded it. I'm a Freddy guy, yeah. I think Freddy could take Jason.
To make a long story short, Freddy.
Jason's cool.
So guys, a couple more things. We do have a website started for all of this stuff as well. It's all from kirk-hammet.com. But we have kbhtoys.com. It has the book and more, and we'll have more information on it as well. If you guys, any of you are travelers and are in the San Francisco Bay Area on November 1st, Day of the Dead, we're having a release party for this book at a place called Public Works. You can get online and find information about that on our website. So if you're out there, we're going to do something, actually nothing like this whatsoever. It's actually a lot darker with alcohol, and it's a lot more fun. But
and a couple bands and some zombies, some burlesque dancers. There's going to be we're hoping that people will come in costume. There's going to be a costume contest.
Freaking Death Angel. Yeah. So we've traveled around quite a bit, and we've broke a lot of rules over the years. There's nothing like breaking a few more while we're here tonight at Barnes & Noble. So what we're going to do is I'm going to put the table up here and let you guys get started getting your books signed. You've probably been to other book signings before where lots of things aren't cool. We're actually cool with it. So you can get 2 copies of your book signed. If you have Kill 'Em All or something on vinyl and you want to get it signed, just slap it on the table. We can break Barnes & Noble's rules over here, I believe, right?
I think it'll be all right.
I hope they'll still have us back after I do that. Is that okay, sir?
Just as long as they don't call the cops, I'm fine.
Yeah, don't call the cops on us. So what I want to do is I want to make sure we get to everybody, and I want to make sure everybody has the chance to tell him how fucking great his book is and all that stuff. So I want to start this row by row. This gentleman, an awesome Tony Swindle hothead hat back from the 1990s, he's actually our first guest. We'll go this way with this row. After that, we'll go that person first, and we'll go row by row. Once you're done getting your book signed, if you could mingle back out into the Barnes & Noble store and continue your shopping, we'd appreciate it, just to kind of get things going. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, everyone. Cheers.
Stay seated until I get your row and release you, okay, if you guys don't mind.